Establishing a network of survival caches is a great way of stashing some of your emergency preparedness supplies along a bug-out route or even outside of your home. The most common approach is to use PVC tubing for storing those items. This is both cost-effective and very secure, but it does have a few problems. The number one problem is its opaque appearance. It could be misleading, especially in an urban environment, since you can't see the contents that are inside of it. Someone might mistake it for an explosive device, for example, and bring you some unwanted legal attention. Number two, because it's a cylindrical container, it doesn't actually store a lot of rectangular items as efficiently. If you're able to get this rectangular item inside of there, you're not leveraging all of the space inside of this container. And then lastly, and this goes with all survival caches, is that once its location is compromised by someone other than yourself, you potentially could lose all of your emergency preparedness supplies. So in an effort to avoid some of those issues, I've come up with a new approach that leverages many geocaching concepts for hiding your survival caches, namely the use of a multi-cache. So rather than burying, your survival cache PVC tube, instead you're going to be hiding little geocaches. But secretly, this is going to be stage one to a multi-cache that leads you to your actual survival cache. So in this little small geocache, you're going to have your logbook, your swag, all the appropriate labels and everything, but it's secretly embedded into here is going to be information that will help you find your survival cache to be used in case of an emergency. This makes it more of a fun adventure such as geocaching rather than a doom and gloom survival adventure. So let's get started with this video, which I call Geocaching for Preppers. Before getting started with this video, I just wanted to give you a quick tutorial on how you can make a PVC survival tube. There's a lot of information on this already on YouTube. I'll give you the quick how-to. So you're going to want to start off with some PVC pipe that you see here. You can get this at any home improvement store such as Home Depot, Lowe's, any place like that. This is the 4-inch version. It is possible to find 6-inch versions if you go to actual plumbing stores, but this is a lot more common. So you take your tube. This comes in lengths as small as 2 feet all the way up to 20 feet, and you can cut it to the length that you want. But you do remember that you're probably going to bury this. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to want to take some PVC, it's called PVC primer and cement, and you're going to want to enclose both ends of this. So the first item that you're going to want to get is a 4-inch ABS. This is a cap hub. It costs around $7.50 at Home Depot. You're going to put it on the edge after you have your primer and cement on there, and you're going to want to enclose that end. So the next end is you're going to want to enclose uses a female adapter, and this is the one that goes on the outside of the tube, like you see here. If you could look on the inside, there's some threads in there, and so for those threads you're going to want to use an ABS cleanout plug, like you see here. Before putting it on though, I recommend using some plumber's tape on the threads here to help make it waterproof. So you can seal it up here. And to get it extra tight, oftentimes you're going to want to have a large wrench that could then, tighten it. And then you have your average PVC survival tube. Before getting started with the actual content of this video, I did want to let you know that I created a pretty extensive PDF that you could download. I've included a link to this PDF in the description box below. It has everything that's covered in this video as well as product links as well. So, for example, you could just go to the MediaFire link, download the PDF, and let's go to, Here's some product links that you might see over here for certain kind of GPS units or other kind of gear that I've been recommending. Here's a little beginner kit. So if you just select the hyperlink there, it'll take you right to the page where I got it from. So again, make sure you download the PDF if you're interested in the content of this particular video. For those of you that are fairly new to this topic, you may have the general question on what is a survival cache. A survival cache is a container that's filled with emergency preparedness supplies such as food, water, and then your general gear, and it's to be used only in the case of an emergency. It's generally buried in the ground and it could be retrieved later. For example, if you were to have a fire in your home and all of your supplies were lost, you may still have some supplies left in your survival cache that was pre-planned, and you could dig it up and use those in case of an emergency. They're also very common to be placed in along your bug-out routes. So for a lot of preppers, they'll have multiple bug-out routes, north, south, east, and west, and they'll have a set of survival caches that could be used to help supplement their bug-out bag, or if they have their EDC bag on them, they could supplement that as well. But generally it's paired with your bug-out bag. It's used as a refill or a restock of supplies. So there's a lot of pros and cons with having survival caches. I named a lot of the pros. It's a great way of supplementing your kit, lighting your load a little bit, pre-planning, having stuff planned out at multiple locations, and it's going to be safe from the environment because it's in a waterproof, very secure container. It's not going to be damaged in a lot of emergency situations, and it could be used and needed when it's needed. But there is a lot of cons. I mentioned some of those in the introduction. A lot of the cons regard legal issues, for example. The main legal issue is for people that are planning out survival caches along their bug out routes. Most people don't own all the land on their bug out routes. So technically you're talking about burying something in someone else's private property without their permission. And that's not really a good thing. Number two, as I mentioned, the opaque appearance, not being transparent, could be kind of misleading to some people and may be misconceived for something that it's not really intended to be. Third, I talked about how the cylindrical container is not too conducive for rectangular objects at all times. It's not. I don't find that it's as space effective as it could be. And lastly, if the GPS coordinates, the exact location to the survival cache, were ever to be obtained by someone other than yourself, it could cause problems. For example, some people choose to store weapons in their survival cache, if that was dug up, if the coordinates were found and maybe found by some kid or a minor and used in a crime, that's something that you don't want to have on your hands. So there is a lot of cons regarding survival caches. You definitely want to be careful with them. While I'm on the topic of legality, I just want to do a quick legal disclaimer. So I'm not a lawyer or a legal consultant, so don't use any of the information that's provided in this video as a source of legality. I cannot say where you could place a survival cache or anything like that. You're going to have to make that decision on your own. I just encourage everyone to do things smart, do things safe, do things with approval, and if you have any questions, it's probably not a good idea. So if you do have any questions, consult your own attorney regarding specific questions in regard to survival caching or even geocaching for your county, state, or country. Nothing in this video could be used like in a court of law. So again, just be safe, don't do anything foolish, and be smart. The concept of survival caches is kind of a depressing topic to plan out. After all, you're talking about storing emergency preparedness supplies to be used in a survival situation. On the other hand, geocaching is a very fun, family-friendly activity that's enjoyed by people all over the world. If you're unfamiliar with geocaching, make sure you go to the Geocaching website. It's geocaching.com. They provide you with all the information that you'd want to know regarding geocaching and how to get started. So basically, geocaching, a geocacher is going to place a geocache in a container, and they're going to place it anywhere in the world. They're going to pinpoint its exact location using GPS technology and then share those coordinates and its existence to the geocaching community online, and people go off basically on a treasure hunt to find it. A kid prepper loves going geocaching because he thinks he's going on a big pirate treasure hunt. So again, it's a very fun, family-friendly activity to do. So what I wanted to do for this particular video series is leverage a lot of the material that's used in geocaching to survival caches to help improve my own personal system, and I thought I'd share that information with you guys. So while survival caches on one hand is very depressing to do, geocaching is fun to do. So I wanted to kind of bring some of the fun into survival caching, as well as use some tried and true geocaching concepts with survival caches to help improve my own systems. And that's what I like to call geocaching for preppers. The crux of my strategy is to use the concept of a multi-cache for covertly hiding your actual survival cache under the guise of being a normal geocache. Let me explain. So for those of you unfamiliar with the multi-cache, a multi-cache is a multiple step process to find the actual geocache that you're looking for. So usually with the geocache, the end is when you find the logbook and have the promotional information regarding it being a geocache and even some swag in there. So what a multi-cache is you're going to find individual geocaches, but you're not going to have a logbook in them. It's just going to provide you with clues to find the next geocache, and then that one will provide you with clues to find the next one. So it could be multiple stages, it could be just a couple stages, but that's generally the concept of a multi-cache. So what I want to do for that is leverage that for survival caches. So rather than just placing a survival cache out there and burying it, saving its coordinates and putting it in your GPS unit, instead I'm going to be placing small little geocaches such as this one, and this is going to look just like a normal geocache. It's going to have the logbook in it, it'll have some information in there, stickers, the whole 9 yards, and I'm going to be saving the coordinates to this. But unbeknownst to anyone but yourself, this is actually going to be a stage 1 of a multi-cache that leads you to your survival cache. And this is going to be the cache that has all the goodies in there, your food, water, gear, and supplies. So it makes it kind of a fun process, because I find that placing the small geocaches is the fun part about geocaching. Here's a little mini one. Here's a micro-sized cache that you could use. Here's the dreaded nano cache. This one's real nasty to use. It's a magnetic, has a tiny little logbook in there, and you can place it just about anywhere, and most people aren't going to find it. Actually, most people are probably not going to find these anyway, because this is not not going to be public information as far as geocaching goes. You're not going to put this on geocaching.com because this is more of a private cache just for you. We're just using the concepts of geocaching in this. So this does create an extra, step in the process with regard to retrieving your actual survival cache. But I find that if you have enough time to dig up a survival cache, you have enough time to go through one additional step that helps make this a little bit more secure. For example, if anyone were to get your GPS unit out of your bug out bag and they'd have a bunch of waypoints in there with GPS coordinates that would lead them to your survival caches, they would really only find the GPS coordinates to your little geocache here, and they would just think, oh crap, I just found a bunch of geocaches. And really it's going to have embedded information that leads them to the survival cache, and I'm proposing that this should be buried 50 to 100 feet away, so in the general area but nowhere close to the actual little geocache that you're going to find. And that's the main concept behind geocaching for preppers. Some of you may have questions with regard to how do you make your geocache a secret? Well, the first way is to not actually post it on geocaching.com. Again, this is a private cache. This is not for public use. People aren't going to be actively looking for your survival caches. Only you should know about this. This is just a safeguard just in case anyone were to happen to find this. So for the first step to making it secret is just make it look absolutely like a geocache. It should have a logbook in it. Actually, it should be a geocache. It's just not going to be publicly available. It should have the appropriate labels to it, a logbook, some swag, maybe even a pencil, some information regarding it being a geocache. So if then anyone were to happen to find this, they would just, oh wow, I found a geocache, let me sign a logbook, and they'll move on and put it back in its location. So that's the main way of making your geocache a secret. So now the process of making it a secret multi-cache, that's the little trick. So what you want to do is you're going to want to embed the information that leads to the actual survival cache within your small little geocache here. So I'm going to provide you with a couple different methods for doing that. I'm not going to give you all the methods just because I don't want you to know all my secrets. But here's a couple of methods. So the first one is to use invisible ink. In most of your caches, you're going to have a logbook in there, and the logbook is going to allow people to sign their name and everything like that, and generally it's put back into the geocache. So what I propose one method to do, it's kind of hard to do with all the camera lights and everything, so I'm going to have to do a pseudo version of it so it actually shows up on camera. So basically, using an invisible ink pen, I'm going to use this is a highlighter, so this isn't invisible, but just as an example, you're going to actually write the information that would lead to the actual survival cache within the geocache here, perhaps on this logbook. So for example, in this logbook, you could write, the actual coordinates, I don't know if you could see that, to the survival cache. So then for only someone that happened to have a UV light, which most people don't carry on them, they would only be able to read the coordinates to that survival cache using with the invisible ink that's plainly written on the logbook, just no one's going to know about it without having the benefits of a UV light. You would then want to make sure that you include a UV light with your EDC bag or in your bug out bag so you could actually retrieve the coordinates needed for your secret multi-cache. So that's one method, is to use the invisible ink method. Here's another method that's kind of very tricky. So I have the actual coordinates to another survival cache on this little piece of paper here. I don't know if you see it. You're probably distracted by the great Linda Carter, who's a big geocacher herself. What this proposal is to have micro-embedded text within a piece of paper that's included with the geocache. So let me see if I could zoom in here. So I don't know if you see it yet. I don't know if you see it. You definitely see Linda. I'm not. Let's see. Let's keep going. You see it yet? See it? Ooh. This is actually a larger version just to use for this particular video. What I did is I used Photoshop and I just put the actual coordinates in a font that's extremely small. It's actually smaller than this. I just had to have it semi-large so it would show up on the camera, and did it in a similar color to the actual background image. So I like to call this a micro-embedded text. So basically you want to distract the person with something like Linda Carter, and they're probably not going to notice that you're going to actually have the coordinates to that secret geocache right plainly visible. Only someone that would have something like a Fresnel lens would be able to find this. So what do? You include a Fresnel lens with your EDC or with your bug out bag. So then when it's time to actually look at this, most people are going to, oh cool, geocache, oh wow, look at Linda, blah, 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 blah. And they're probably not going to see that way down there. You probably can't even see it too. It's actually kind of hard to read. So you're going to need some kind of magnifying equipment for that. And so those are two methods for making your stage 1 geocache a secret. multi-cache. So again, there's a lot of different methods. You could check them out on YouTube for ideas. Those are just a couple ideas. So far I've been using this little match holder made by Ultimate Survival Technologies to use for my Stage 1 geocache. Let me show you a few more options that you could use that are pretty fun. There's the magnetic key holder. The fake metal plate. The fake sprinkler head. And the classic fake rock. That's going to do it for part 1 of the Geocaching for Preppers video. I hope that you guys are enjoying it so far, and it's given you a few different ideas on how to make your survival caches a little bit more cryptic, a little bit more law-abiding, as well as fun to place. So stay tuned for the follow-up videos, which will feature a live walkthrough of actually using these strategies that were covered in this video to placing a survival cache using the secret multi-cache method with a Stage 1 and a Stage 2 and the whole 9 yards. So that one should be a lot of fun. Also, I'll be covering some alternative containers that you could use for your survival cache other than the typical PVC pipe, and some of them are a little bit more cost-effective as well as law-abiding. So stay tuned for both of those videos. Also, make sure you download the PDF file that's available in the description box below. Just click the link and it has all, the description of everything that was covered in this video, as well as product links that you could check out as well. So please feel free to leave any kind of comments below in the comment section. And again, I hope you guys are enjoying this video featuring geocaching for preppers. See ya.